Hi, I'm Bill Drayton from Ashoka, Everyone a Changemaker. We all know that we are in an extraordinary historical moment of transition, a transition that affects every part of our lives. Growing up, parenting, education, leadership, and how every human organization has to be organized. We're moving from a world that was defined by efficiency and repetition. Think assembly lines, law firms. People learned a skill which they repeated for life in a world of walls. Very efficient, completely dysfunctional now. The rate of change and the degree and extent of interconnection has been going up exponentially since 1700. That's just a fact. Demand for repetition is going down exponentially. That's a causally related mirror curve. We are now at a point that the old system doesn't work. The new one is working. It, in fact, is dominant, and the people who are in it are doing very well. The organizations that have made the transition are doing very well. But then there's the other half, and they don't see it, they don't have the abilities, they're organized in the old way, and they're falling further and further behind as this new world accelerates. And because the nature of the new world is a fluid, open, integrated team of teams, constantly new teams forming, and always changing, and every piece as it changes, bumping and causing the other pieces to move. Well, it requires a very special set of skills to be able to be contributive, seeing new change and helping it develop, adapting to change, living and working in this environment. So the people who are in this game are helping one another get better and better at as the game accelerates. That is what's causing the new inequality in the world. That's what explains why income distributions are getting worse everywhere. Because there's a bidding war for people who have these abilities, and there's disappearing demand for people who don't. And that's why we have us versus them politics causing such unhappiness and division and dysfunction in the world. When you tell a large part of humanity, go away, we don't need you, it's your fault, and by the way, your kids don't have much of a future, well, they're going to get depressed and permanently angry. And if we don't want to live in that sort of a world, we have to make sure that everyone, meaning everyone, is a change maker, is able to contribute, to be powerful, to express love and respect in action. Well, we have to help everyone get there. And that's the main thing that Ashoka is working on. How do we help build an everyone a changemaker world? So we have a series of tools that are part of that larger effort. One of the most powerful is called Your Kids. And it is designed to help any adult, any group of adults become change makers. And it works because it's about their kids. Once they understand that their sons and daughters are going to have a good life where they can really contribute, only if those kids have the abilities to be able to contribute in this new game. And they're sophisticated, they're complex. You have to learn and practice them. That's the new definition of success in growing up and of education. Once a parent understands that, and they know the future happiness of their daughter is a function of whether or not that daughter has these skills, the parent is going to want to help the daughter get there. For that to happen, the parent has to have some very simple tools that will allow her or him to make that happen. So Your Kids is a very simple mechanism that has a trigger of an hour and a half. The host says, it's a world of change, that's the new reality, critical for our organization. But that's not what this meeting is about. It's about your kids. They have to have these new abilities if they're going to have a good life as a contributor, as a powerful person, as a change maker. Then they go over to the facilitator. Our friend, the facilitator, will help us. And the facilitator says the same thing. It's a world of change. And your daughter really has to have these abilities. Both have to use examples. The easy examples are the negative ones. We all know that there aren't going to be truck driving jobs. Well, we may not know as much, but it's also true that bank lending officers' jobs are going away. Alibaba has shown how to do that. Everyone understands that, but saying it out loud is really helpful. But then, what are the positive abilities that you have to really be a player in this new game? And so a very major part of the challenge is how to give people some sense of what those abilities are in those 2 opening sessions. It's a new game. Your daughter has to have these abilities if she's going to be a player. So what we're going to do now is walk through the part of your kids, this trigger hour and a half, that the facilitator does that tries to get the people they're working with to that level of understanding. Once people have understood new strategic reality, this is critical for my daughter has to have this sort of skills. Then you introduce a young person who totally has her power because she's had her dream, built her team, changed her world, i.e. she's a youth venturer or an Ashoka young change maker. And she tells her story for 5 minutes. That 5 minutes is the most critical 5 minutes because in that time, you have set everyone in the room up. They are focused and they are experiencing this young person who has her power, who knows it, who knows she's a change maker, who knows the world will always want her because she can dream and organize and change her world. And it's not skills. The half-life of skills that's a fool's errand. You don't train people for life to master a skill that's going to go away. But this is what's really important. They experience that as she talks. And then you ask the 3 critical questions. Is your daughter practicing change making like this young woman? Does your daughter have the same power? Does America or Nigeria or England have a future if all our kids don't have this? And then you go into what a parent can do. The 6-year-old hits her 4-year-old brother. Well, you can ask, you must have been upset when you did that. How do you think your brother felt when you did that? Why do you think he responded? What do you think we could do now? Those 4 questions are about mastering cognitive empathy. They're asking your 6-year-old to think through, what was I feeling? Say it out loud. Each of the 4 questions. So most of the session is giving people those tools. You want to give people a sense that this is why you need those tools at this opening. So now we're in the second part, and the host has said world of change, hopefully has given some examples, and that it's critical for the kids of the people in the room. You have to make a judgment about how well the host has done her or his job. If they didn't get across the positive skills people have to have, then you've got to do more on that. Ideally, the host has done a great job. New game, critical for your kids, some examples. You want to get the same message across, but in a different way. People learn when they hear, this is a very big message, and hearing it from someone they know, and then someone who they think is somewhat expert, that's really important. If people don't understand that this is a new game, a new strategic environment, then all we're doing is giving an opinion about how they can parent differently. Well, who doesn't have opinions? They have to understand that it's a new strategic environment. And so that's the role of the first 2. This is a new reality. Your daughter is going to have a bad life if she doesn't have these abilities. That's the lesser message. The really important message is your daughter is going to have a great life. She's going to have the health and happiness and long life of being a giver, of being able to express love and respect in action. But for her to do that, she has to be able to play in this new game. So how do you explain that? Well, you have to explain what the new game is. Rate of change going up, everyone connected more and more, broader and broader. That's just new reality. That means all the pieces are moving, and as each piece moves, they cause the other pieces to move. This is the exact opposite of a repetitive world. The exact opposite. So people have to have the ability to understand not a few contexts, but a huge set of contexts, and all the pieces are moving. You have to consciously understand that, or you're going to hurt people and disrupt groups. That's a different context, a different set of requirements. How do you give examples of that? Well, I think the easiest part is this is the first generation that you can't be a good person by just diligently following the rules. The rules aren't there. The rate of change is too fast. The interconnections, it's just too different. And it's different every day, every week. You cannot be a good person by diligently following the rules. If that's the only tools you have, you're going to hurt people. You're going to disrupt groups, and you're gone. If you hurt me, I don't care how good an engineer you are. I want you out of my life. And I'm going to be suspicious of anyone who looks like you. That's happening all around us. That's part of what causes the new inequality. And that's the most basic level. how do you actually contribute in this new environment of constantly changing teams of teams? Everyone in a team is a leader. They're contributing. They're helping everyone else play all those different roles. Well, if you don't know how to do that, people are not going to find you very valuable. And the new leadership is the opposite. It's not Henry Ford having an idea and then setting up something to be repeated forever by people. You have to be able to envisage far into the future something of value, invite a new team from all over, not the old team. You've got to imagine a new way, a new set of architecture for that team of teams to come together and work together well. At that moment, all the people you've invited in become co-creators of the vision, of the architecture. And the power of this is that they are all helping everyone be really the best possible change maker, the best possible person at the individual and group level. Well, how can you do that if you haven't mastered these abilities? So I have just described what the new success in growing up is. Right? So if you can get across those ideas in this introductory period, then you're set up to introduce the young person who has their power. You've given people a sense of this is the new strategic reality, this is what's required. Now there aren't going to be truck driver jobs. If you have to have these abilities for whatever role. And then you introduce the young person who has that. And people can feel it. And you bring it to the surface. This is what you've just felt and experienced. Oh, that's what we were describing in the opening two parts. But at that point, people really want to know how to do this. And then you show them it's simple. They can do it. They don't have to change the world. They can do it right at home this evening. So this is actually huge fun because in an hour and a half, you got to change people's lives. When they help their daughter get her power, those people have become change makers. This is by far the best way of helping anybody become a change maker. When they take responsibility for helping another person, someone they really care about and love, become a change maker so that that person has a good life. They're totally focused on this. They have become a change maker. And when your daughter becomes a change maker, well, if she can do it, why not me? It's a hugely virtuous cycle. And this hour and a half is when you give each individual that gift and the group. They can help one another. And then at the end of the hour and a half, you give them access to your kids' a regular flow of stories about different kids and different ideas in different settings, but it's always their dream, their team, their changed world. And you give them access to how they can work together through peer-to-peer. After a year, the host organization is going to have a whole bunch of change makers, and they can lead the change-making revolution inside the host organization. They can use your kids and lead young. And the company, the religious house, the fellows organization, whatever the organization, has an opportunity to become everyone a change-maker organization, to succeed itself in this new environment. The alternative is grim, but getting this right is so good. So thank you for contributing to making that possible.